Welcome to Let's Go Boating TV, and today I'm really excited to have a longtime friend and former associate with us, Bron Beal, the producer of the Dallas Boat Show in Dallas, and the show coming up here. I move in next week, and then starting on the 29th of January and running into February. And traditionally, Bron, there's always some snow or cold temperatures around the boat show. It sounds like you've got some coming in this week.
Yeah, I think that we're probably a better denominator of what happens with the weather than any of the weathermen are around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, because no matter what the situation is, when we start to move boats into Market Hall or start to get our show up and rolling, we will bring that winter weather to Texas. So it is what it is.
Right on, right on. So speaking of that, how many years have you been doing the Dallas Boat Show?
I took over the Dallas Boat Show unofficially 1994. Officially, I consulted in 94. Then in 95 was the first year that I ran the show independently as a trade show manager at that time. I wasn't a part of the corporation. We were a third-party hire. Ran it for 7 years until 2001, and then I was hired directly by the corporation, and I've gone through two different corporations and now a private owner, and I think that will put me at year 32. So lots of fun, lots of stories.
Well, and the boat show itself is almost 55 years of being in Market Hall in Dallas, and obviously a tradition that everybody looks for every year, which we'll talk about. But before we do that, I know you grew up in Louisville and still a longtime Louisville resident. Also, you were a superstar in high school there at the Fighting Farmers. Give us a little background of your sports background.
I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah, very blessed. Grew up in small town Louisville. I think when my mom and I moved here in 1973, we always kind of had this funny little joke, because there was down from the house that we moved in when we first moved here, there was a population sign. And I remember when we moved to Louisville in 1973, there were 17,504 people. And, my mom and I were starting over. I'd come out of a divorce with my parents, and I lived with my mom. And we always made this little joke that now there's 17,506. So that was always a funny little joke. And Louisville was a blessing in disguise for me and what transpired in my life. Just a down-home country little town. I mean, you have to be country if your mascot's a fighting farmer. So it was something that I was just enamored with instantly when I got here, and it created some drive and some personal dedication for me to try to be the best I could and represent my hometown. And the good Lord reached down and touched me in some ways that gave me a little bit of an edge over the guys next to me. And as I came up through the lower schools and into high school, I was very much a late bloomer. But by my junior and senior year, it was pretty obvious that I had a little bit more talent than most of the guys that I dealt with. Was a 2-year starter in two different sports, my junior and senior year, football and baseball, both at the Louisville High School. Had some luck, had some good stuff, decorated all district, 2 different positions in 2 different sports for 2 different years. District MVP in baseball, district MVP in football. And then coming through my senior year, I still wasn't very big. I was only about 5'11". Well, I might have weighed a $170 yet. But I caught another growth spurt and was playing some baseball after my senior year on a Dallas All-Star teams. This was way before the select programs and stuff that we have now. And then on June 6th of 1982, this will date me, the Western Union guy showed up at my door with a telegram, had his little hat on and his little bow tie, and that telegram told me that I had been selected in the 18th round by the Philadelphia Phillies. I was a pitcher, also played a little outfield, and 2 days later, I was in Helena, Montana, on a rookie year contract with the Phillies. I spent 2.5 years with them physically. Spent 5 years with them contractually, but unfortunately had a pretty bad injury my second year. Just trying to do a little bit too much for my body and blew an arm out completely.
Hmm.
That sent me back home with my tail between my legs. I'd had a lot of offers to go play football, but I was hurt, physically could not throw. And being a quarterback, that kind of was a requirement for me to make a few football teams. But I also had another passion that was kind of hidden away, and that was art. So the Phillies had given me enough money to go to the university to get my degree. So I enrolled at the University of North Texas late 1984 to get my art degree. And I have a minor in drawing and painting, and believe it or not, interior design. And then the football coaches found me, and I told them I couldn't play. They wanted me to come, walk on, try to make the team. Told them I wasn't interested. Couldn't throw a football, and the coach was pretty adamant. Just a dear man and a dear friend of mine, Corky Nelson, who was the head coach at the University of North Texas when I was there. In fact, it was North Texas State University the first 2 years I was there. Corky kept pestering me, and finally he goes, "Didn't you punt also?" And I said, "Well, yeah. I mean, all the quarterbacks in North Texas were required to be the punters too. That was just part of the program." Finally talked me into coming down. He said he needed a punter, and I had not touched a football in almost 5 years. Lo and behold, I make the team as a punter. I get redshirted in the 84 year. 85 year, I'm just a punter. But physically, I was having to go through all the off season and all the training and stuff for the football team. And my arm came back, through weightlifting and using it and, treating your body correctly the way it should be. And all of a sudden I could throw a football again, and it got better and better. And long story short, by the end of my freshman year, I was the starting quarterback for the University of North Texas. Spent the next 2 years as a starter up until my junior year, where it wasn't my arms that gave out on me this time, it was my legs. By then I had grown I was 6'2", about 208, so I put on 3 inches and a lot of weight. Unfortunately, my ankles didn't grow. So I had these little pencil ankles, and 3 ankle surgeries later, I couldn't run.
Wow.
And I turned over the reins the end of my junior year to a good close friend of mine that I still talk to today, a gentleman named Scott Davis, and he led us the last year and a half. But I ended up 3-time all conference, all American my sophomore year as a punter. And just the background that I came from, the leadership qualities. I never went to school to be a exposition manager or a director of a corporation, but was able to blend what I learned on the playing fields and how to. I had this uncanny ability to talk guys that were 6'8", 350 pounds. I could talk them into doing anything I wanted them to do, and so that was a very unique attribute that I brought to the table. So I wasn't a great athlete. There's 100 guys out there that could throw it further or kick it further or can run faster, but I could get the guys to rally around, and so my leadership skills were probably what carried me to the levels that I got to. So, and then I've been able to just blend those into what I do now.
Well, and I think one thing too, Bron, sports obviously help to shape a lot of guys and to really put you in a position of both leadership, but also knowing the tough times and that kind of stuff. You mentioned your one coach at North Texas, Corky and whatnot. Was there one coach or somebody that really, made the difference of becoming from a young man to sort of a real, player?
Not necessarily in that regards. I had a lot of coaches that touched my life in different ways. But my journey from being a kind of a mama's boy, little country kid from Louisville, Texas, to, professional baseball player, to a college quarterback, captain, leader, face of the university type thing. I pretty much was done all on trial and error. It does make you grow up quickly. There were great times, there were hard times, but I was able to process each one of those experiences. I've always been really good at taking the good at stuff and discarding the negative. And even as I got into some offshoots of coaching, I love to work with the youth and give them my knowledge. And the one thing that I've always told all of my students of the games, whether it's a football or baseball, we never lose. We always we win or we learn. And so, the more that you can eliminate the negativity out of the world, in especially today's world, I think the better off you are as a person. It makes you grow. And I hopefully have taught that lesson well, not only to all my students, but I'm also, as you well know, Frank, blessed with four beautiful daughters. Sometimes I wonder about the definition of the word bless, but I love them dearly. I hope that they have learned from me that, you know, it's not as much as what you do with the success, because we're all granted success. It's how you handle the adversity and the negativity. And I've always learned from it. It doesn't get me down. It's just, I don't hit a panic button. And I guess that probably led to success on the athletic field, because when things went down, I just buckled it up and we got after it. And so I try to do that on a daily basis, and it's led to some. I couldn't be happier in life. I'm married to my best friend, the most beautiful woman in the world. And she's my rock, and we raise our kids, and now we've got three grandbabies, and I'm trying to teach them the same thing. And it's just that's part of it, and I couldn't be happier.
Well, Bron, it's interesting. I appreciate all the years you and I got to work together, and not only
I do
doing
too.
boat shows, but also just sharing life a little bit. And I can remember probably 10 years ago when my grandkids, my first grandson, who's 27 now, was kind of coming up, and you were going, you're not old enough to have grandkids and some of that kind of stuff. But what a life changer that is. And I know I see pictures, of you with yours at the football games and Halloween and different
Yeah,
times and whatnot. So, life is more than sports and producing boat shows.
it is. It really is. My oldest grandson is. They call me Pawpaw, which I think is funny. And it's so weird, what they call you, and does that date you? And I feel like every time they call me Pawpaw, I should be rolling around in a wheelchair. And I will one day, so I'll live up to that name eventually. Uh, my oldest Liam is 16 now, and coming up, he had no. I mean, and I didn't push my daughters, nor did I push my grandchildren to follow my footsteps in the athletic prowess. But Liam just had no desire to do anything in sports. So that was fine. I just want to make him the best that he wants to be. And he walked into the house, I guess it's now 3 years ago, and said, "I'm trying out for the football team in eighth grade." And he's kind of he's a bigger kid. We still don't know where he got his size from. And he played eighth grade football. And then by his freshman year at Louisville, he had grown again. And boy, he just hooked it up and he loves it. And now I've got a 6 foot, 3.5, 240 pound 16-year-old that runs around the house. An offensive lineman, defensive lineman. He's looking at trying to make varsity next year at his junior year. That's been a lot of fun. Not to live, vicaciously through him, but to relive through him. That's been a lot of fun. And my other two grandsons, one of them is 7, and he's just such a he's a handful is what he is, but he's just such a blessing.
Yeah.
And he runs around, left, right, up, down, and you never know which way he's going. And he'll settle on something one day, and we'll go from there. And then I was blessed just almost this time last year, it was in the middle of March, with my third grandson. So I've got a almost 1 year old that bebops around the house every once in a while, and he's just a pleasure to watch him grow up. And hopefully I got more coming.
Well, I tell you, Bron, it's, somebody told me about probably 30 years ago now that if I'd have known grandkids were going to be this much fun, I'd have had them first.
I can understand that. I really can. I mean, you and I have shared a lot of conversations regarding children back and forth, so we're both kind of got that same smile. But you know, it's just what you said. My life as an athlete has been over and done with for many years. My life as a boat show producer, director, coordinator, corporate leader is starting to slow down. But my life as a parental figure, not only to my girls and to my son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws, but also to my grandkids, that's just the next step. And then, of course, as you well know, with your relationship with Denise, and you got to keep that relationship with your wife is the number one and most important thing, because if that's taken care of, everything else kind of follows suit. It's pretty easy after that. So it's just moving through the transitions in life and the different stages, and finding out what you feel like the good Lord has put you on this earth for. And I feel like I've done a pretty good job so far in His test, and my accomplishments, and that's reflected no longer on the sports show after the news, or the newspaper article after a game. It's kind of reflected now on my children and how they're thought of, and now my grandchildren and how they're going to be thought of. So that's just part of being a dominant male figure. And I'm not saying that to be conceited, but if you are that person and you can share that, then you just make everybody around you that much better.
Absolutely. And Bron, your passion for people and events and whatnot definitely spills over to the Dallas Boat Show. And again, I know
It
next
does.
week is move in, set up, and you've basically taken an empty building and turned it into something that every year when people come through that door, they go, wow. And, one of the things you and I have talked about, the importance of boat shows is where people may spend a lot of time online. They may today look at, artificial intelligence to get, more information on boats and whatnot. But at the end of the day, seeing, feeling, and touching those boats is the most important thing.
It is. Even, when you were here with me several years ago, and we were, you know, elbow to elbow and battling out to get these shows produced and trying to make the best we could. We had rumors back then that boat shows were no longer going to be the thing. Why would I go to a boat show? I could just order it online or whatever. Uh, we had a word that you and I used, back and forth, was the tangibility of a boat show. Our definition was just what you just said. We can touch it, we can feel it, we can smell it, we can see it. Uh, and, we have battled through in the 32 years. There's always something that puts boat shows in jeopardy, but the boat shows bounce back bigger, stronger. And I honestly think it's because of the tangibility factor that, not only can I go and look at the boats and talk to my salesman, but I can look at all of them. I've got 21 dealers at the show. And if I wanted to go look at 21 dealers, I mean, you're talking a 2 week trip down here in Texas, because they're all over the place. But they're all under one roof. And then the other part about the boat show that makes it so successful is the retail market, the buyer seller atmosphere that is created on the show floor. And we're able to do that in the state of Texas because the boating industry is governed by the Texas Parks and Wildlife, and not, other regulatories like the Texas Motor Vehicle Department, who tries to get in your back pocket and tell you when you can and can't sell stuff and how you can sell it. But it's just it's a beautiful, combination of, three or four of the right things, and that produces a very successful boat show. And this year is very exciting. We battled through COVID. We got through, I call it the easy years, which were the post-COVID years where you could sell a boat just by putting a picture up on the wall. And now we're back to where my dealers have got to go at it, and they got to meet people, and they've got to be able to talk to people, and that creates that atmosphere. And when we do that, then the boat shows are very successful. So I'm excited about the 2026 show. My emails are going off, the tickets are being sold. Right now, it's shaping up to be one of our better events.
Well, not only that, Bron, but people can come to the boat show and see the different styles of boats, from wakeboard boats to pontoon boats to family runabouts, center consoles, aluminum fishing boats. Also can find out what it takes to finance, insure, but also you've got marinas there where people can talk about, storage, whether that's on their own trailer in dry storage, or it's in the water, storage, or, Lake Texoma, Lake Louisville, Possum Kingdom, Lake Whitney. So, just it kind of putting the whole package together.
Yeah, you basically just quoted my mission statement, so I appreciate that. The education part of the boat show is something that I don't think people realize until they get on the show floor and they see exactly what you're talking about. I mean, you walk in and there's 600 boats sitting there, all beautifully polished and on their trailers, and the lights, bells, and whistles. And like you said, whether it's a towboat or a cruiser or a runabout or a pontoon or fishing or inflatables, canoes, rafts, we got it all. That's the big, you know, I guess that's the big wow factor when you walk in the doors. Holy crap, how did they get all these in here? And man, look at them. Let's go, let's go. And then once you get in and you start to see a couple of things that the education starts to bring. First of all, you mentioned the financing, and people don't realize that, the boat may have $150,000, price tag on it, but you finance it for 15, 18 years now. So your monthly payment's not that big. People don't realize that. People never think about what you said. Do I dry store it? Do I put it in the water? Where do I start? Well, all of these things are at the show. We have different companies. Your insurance is going to be represented, your storage, your marinas, your accessories that go to that boat. I've got captains that will teach you how to drive the boat. Services, where do you take the boat to get serviced? Where's your warranty work? All of the stuff that it takes to actually join the recreational boating industry as quote unquote a boat owner. It's all in one place under one roof, and you can walk in without ever being a boat owner and walk out being a boat owner 6 hours later. It's unbelievable.
Well, and Bron, I still have a lot of people that I communicate with, customers in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And, there's third and fourth generations of boat owners or boat users in the Dallas area. And it may be, a home down at Cedar Creek that's, been there for 3 generations, or a family that's boated on, Texoma from the, 70s, into the 80s. And, now it's, the grandkids or whatever that may be. And so boating is a great lifestyle there in Dallas, and this is where people come to celebrate that on an annual basis.
It is. It's kind of a little running joke. And I mean, I was blessed to have you join me for 3 or 4 years worth of shows as my right hand guy, which, that was tremendous. I think you taught me more than most people. But there was a running joke that, you mentioned the family side of boating, as you well know, being part of it. The Pillsbury family owning boat dealerships in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. What did you guys have gone 3, 4 generations? And I've got dealerships here that I've watched people that I deal with now on a daily basis as the ownership of a certain dealership that I can remember pushing in a stroller when they first walked into the
Yeah.
show. So watching the families and the family-owned industry, and then the funny part of it is, you know, I literally, and it's a two-way street, there are people that come to the Dallas Boat Show that are just people that I've never met, I've never talked to, but I recognize them because they come every show and they recognize me. They'll stop by and go, "Hey, how are you doing this year?" "Oh, great. How are you doing?" "I see your kids have grown." "Yeah, that's great." And honestly, I may not even know this individual's name, but I recognize them because they're always at the show. And so the family side of the boating industry is, I think, what keeps it so successful and such a passion, as you well know. You know, it's a lifestyle, and we build on that lifestyle. And you know, we always there's those funny little quips. You know, once you're in the boating lifestyle, you're in it till you're out, and you're out of it is not going to be until either you give it all away or you no longer can use it,
Right
because
on.
once you're
Yeah.
in, you're staying, and they
Yeah.
got you.
So, Bron, the 2026 Dallas Boat Show, you start moving in next week. What are the dates and times?
Yeah, the show, we're very happy, the 2026. So this is our first show post COVID that we were actually able to get our dates and our format back. Prior, the show came back in the summer of 2023, and just because of, you know, the explosion in the boating industry from the manufacturer side and the dealer side during COVID and just a few years after COVID, it was very hard to get a show going. First of all, the dealers felt like we didn't need it because, like I said, you just threw a picture out there and that boat sold within an hour. And then as that slowed up, uh, the demand and supply chains kind of got caught back up, and then the supply chain got ahead, which is what it's supposed to. And now I had dealers that had inventory, and we need a boat show. So we came back in 2023, but we were only able to get into a 4-day format. And that format also pushed us into March. And that was just due to the availability of the dates at the facility that we use here in Dallas, which is Dallas Market Hall. But 2026, we were able to finally secure uh, our 2 weekend dates. So, and back into the January, February merge. So we're going to open on January the 30th, or excuse me, January the 29th, which is Friday. We're going to be open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the 29th, 30th, and February the 1st. We're going to close the hall Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we're going to reopen Friday, February the 5th through the 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then we will shut it down and look forward to moving towards July for the summer show. So we're really excited. The dealers are excited to have the 2 weekends back. The public's excited. That's just been the number one just random text or email I'll get is, "Wow, I'm glad you guys have got the dates back and you got 2 weekends." That just gives us a lot of flexibility.
Website for purchasing tickets and information?
www.dfwboatexpo.com. And tickets can be purchased through the website. They can be purchased at the door, cash or credit. And then, you know, all the dealers will be listed, the floor plans on the website. So anything you need to know regarding the show is going to be on that website. And then, of course, as always, somewhere on the bottom hidden is going to be my contact information. And if you can't find what you need, you pick up the phone, you call me.
And free parking.
Free parking at Dallas Market Hall. It's still to this day probably the only building I think in the area that does that. So that's always been great.
Bron, what a great pleasure to spend time with you. And we'll talk during the boat show and get a good report of how things are going.
Yes, I look forward to seeing you. And you know, just to emphasize, you know, I do miss you. We had a lot of fun when we produced these shows together. You were, you know, not only a mentor for me, but an educator for me, a rock that I could bounce ideas off of.
Absolutely, Bron. And thanks again. And take care of that family and those grandkids.
Well, it goes both ways, Franklin. Thank you.